Hello, this is the Bluthner Style 7 grand piano. That's 190 centimeters long, 6 foot 3 inches long, and it's made in 1889, which is an excellent year for Bluthner grand pianos. In fact, really, there's very, very little difference between one made then and one made 30 years later. Just having a look to see whether there's any work that we need to do to improve the piano. It has been fully restored by Morley's of Lewisham, and I've confirmed with them that they sold it in 2000 after they'd restored it, and the owners we purchased it from bought it from there, so it's had one owner since then. The key tops are replacements, they're not ivories. Well, that's good these days, because very often if we want to sell, you have to get a certificate to sell ivory anyway, and to export it sometimes we have to change them, so that's very useful, and Morley's have done it, and they've done the job very well. So looking at the casework, there is a certain amount of damage on it, and I'm going to try and show it to you as well as possible. It's obviously difficult to video that. This isn't really that damaged. You can see the defect there, very slight actually. There's not much damage, what I meant to say. And looking around the side here, there's nothing. There's a slight scratch there. Oh no, it isn't. Sorry, that was a piece of hair for some reason was there. So looking around the back of the piano, there's just very slight imperfections here. And my colleague, I'm sure, can make good all of these. And around the side here again, very slight imperfections. Well, here, so actually you can't really see that. It shows up on the video for some reason, but it's not that noticeable. And round that side is pretty good. The top end, now we do have some scratches here. We can probably improve those, I think, again. But there's a slight scratching. This obviously makes the piano less expensive than it would be if it was in perfect condition. So it's really a musician's piano, very much so. And here also you can see where the music was sitting, and again we'll try and make good the scratches as well as we possibly can. Now that's the original music stand. On Bluthner Grands and some other makes, these panels slide forwards so that you can put candlesticks on them to shine on the music for the days when of course there was no electricity. Now inside the piano it's pretty immaculate. We haven't had time to clean it out yet, it's only arrived yesterday, but I'm quite enthusiastic to get this video done. I have tuned the piano to check the tuning pins were tight. The rest punk's not been changed, but the tuning pins are extremely tight, and obviously there's the Morley's label there to show that they restored it, and I did contact them to just double check it, and that they put that style on nearly all their pianos, so it's pretty distinctive. And looking at the tuning pins, they are, as I say, larger than they were originally, because you have to do that if you restring, and you can see new strings there as well. So everything's been done to the highest possible standard. The soundboard needs a good clean, but that's the original badge on there, I think, and the frame's been beautifully polished too. So, and there's no, we're looking along here. Something I always check, and even on restored pianos sometimes you do find that moths have been at it, but there's no moth in the piano at all. I just thought I'd mention that because it's actually quite common. Just bought a relatively new piano recently, and surprised to find there was moth under the keys. So there's nothing in this one, but I'm mentioning that just for information, perhaps for the future if you watch our videos. Now, since I started the video, my colleague the polisher has been looking at the casework and trying to improve it as much as possible. So just going very quickly over the whole case, you can see some slight blemishes. They show up a lot more on the video than they do live actually, which is a good thing. And really, if you look at the piano, I think if you're a musician and if you want it repolished, fully repolished, we can do that obviously. You can see some scratching on the top there, and generally the case is in good condition though, I think. He's also worked on the inside of the piano, which was very dusty before. The soundboard had quite a lot of dust on it and is now cleaned up and looks very immaculate. I mean, very encouraged by that, and generally in pretty perfect condition on the inside. So it's got the Bluthner Patent action on it, which is the L-spate spring, which has a beautiful smooth feel to it. Looking at the hammers, they have been replaced at some stage, but I don't think that was done in the year 2000 when the rest of the piano was restored. I think they've refaced them because these look like older hammers, but they aren't original hammers. I'm pretty certain about that. So I'm not quite sure who made those. They look very much like Bluthner's may have done them themselves actually, but can't verify that, sorry about that. And generally the action's in perfect condition, so that's good news, and it's well regulated, even the springs. As we press middle C here, if I release it, it's going up, which is quite hard to achieve with just the L-shaped spring to regulate. The standard roller system is easier to regulate, I find, but with a lot of patience you can get it to be regulated perfectly. You don't get quite the repetition on this style of action that you do on the roller action, as we've mentioned many times before. If you do want to regulate this spring, it's best done by pulling it backwards. I've heard other technicians say differently to this, but I pull it backwards normally, because if you try to pull it out here and then try and bend up this joint here, on a couple of occasions in the distant past, not recently, I've broken them. So I prefer the method of keeping that in and pulling it back, and that does increase the tension slightly. So if you pull it back, if you can't get enough tension increased, you could bend this gently. That might be a possibility, but I generally try to pull them back, which lifts it up slightly higher and increases the tension on the spring. Let's have a look at this one. That's actually perhaps could do with increasing slightly. Well, it is going up, and I don't think we're going to get better than that. So, but if the tension's too little, so if we press that back, won't be enough tension. So let's just push it right back, and now it's not going up at all. It's going straight down. So then we can pull it back again. I'm going to use two hands for this, so I'll stop the video. So I've pulled it back, but a little bit too far, because if you look at the hammer now, it's springing up, but it's not coming back down and resting on the rail. So there is a fine line between it doing that, resting on the rail, and actually springing up, but it's springing up more than it needs to at the moment. So we can just push that back in slightly, and we'll get the right tension. So it's a bit of trial and error on this really, and now it's just about going up, and it's sitting on the rail. I think I've decreased it too much, so I'll get it right and then show you. So there's a very fine line between it, spring going up slightly as it is there, so I release the back check by taking my finger off the key a bit, and resting on the rail, which it is now. And it is quite a patient thing to get them regulated exactly correctly. So obviously you don't want it to come back up and hit the string either a second time. So, but it regulates beautifully, and oddly, that when this is regulated properly, it doesn't lose its tension over a short period of time. It takes a long time to need doing again. They're extremely well made, these springs. So I've tuned the piano just to check the tightness of the pins and listen to the piano as well. It's very useful when I can manage to do that before doing the assessment. The key weighting is pretty good actually, so it does need just general mild lubricant, but really that's as you'd hope it would be, so 47 in the middle. Slight variety, plus or minus 2 grams is what we're looking for. So that's encouraging. Now the sharps need raising by about 2 millimeters. The key tops have been replaced, but the sharps are a bit on the low side. There's a measuring gauge there, so you can see there's a gap there. It should be 12 millimeters, and you can pull it up by about 2 millimeters to get it to the right height. And also, if we look at the distance the keys go down, I can press this a bit further than beyond the 2 millimeters again that we're looking for above the naturals. So some of them, they all disappear below. So that's also, we're going to have to alter slightly the key dip. So we've got that down here as well. Decrease the key dip on the sharps by about 2 millimeters. So it doesn't notice that much when you're playing, but it's not quite right, I think. So there's some small jobs that others have looked at here and discovered, and fine regulation of the dampers. So generally, we're very grateful to get this piano into stock at a price at which we can sell it for a reasonable price, because it's not perfect on the outside, but it's in reasonable condition, certainly a good musician's piano. So that's a Bluthner style 7 grand piano, 190 centimeters long, made in 1889. And really, Bluthner grand pianos, the patent action, which this one is, go up to about 1925 and almost as good as each other. It's not really improved and not really changed the piano from about 1885, I think, or even slightly earlier, up until 1925 when they switched to doing the roller action. We talked about this many times before, but just trying to remind, if necessary, if you haven't watched the videos before. And it's a delight. It's got plenty of power and also plays very delicately. Bluthners are renowned for being mellow sounding pianos. If you're interested in the piano, please do write to us. If you'd like to try it out for a while because you aren't able to come in and look at it, then that is something we can look at too. So please do write to info@robertspianos.com. Thank you very much for listening.